Hello everyone. Topic of this session is agriculture and its evolution. This session is part of the course on Indian agriculture development. Before we start this session, let us think what is agriculture and how it is evolved. Because agriculture is related to all our primary needs such as food, cloth and housing. And evolution of agriculture started with the inception of civilization. In this session, we are going to cover the meaning of agriculture and we will discuss how agriculture evolved over the period. Then we will identify the developments in agriculture during prehistoric period. And then we will also identify the contribution of India in agricultural development. Then we will also see the status of agriculture before and after independence. Now, let us understand what is agriculture. Agriculture is derived from two Latin words. First is ager, which means soil. The second word is cultura, which means cultivation. So, agriculture is basically cultivation of soil. Agriculture is a very broad term which include all aspects of crop productions, livestock, farming, fisheries, poultry, forestry, sericulture or many other things. Agriculture is basically a growing of plants in the existing lands base under the prevailing climatic condition is basically agriculture. What plant do? Agriculture means basically plants. So, what plant do? Plants convert the environmental inputs like the solar energy, carbon dioxide, water and soil nutrients into economic products. These economic products is used by the human and animal for their food and also for industrial raw materials. If you want to define the agriculture, we can say that agriculture is a science and art of cultivating crops for food, fiber or for cash and also the rearing of animals for their products. Agriculture is also an integration of crops and animal rearing. This system of integration of crops and animal rearing is most common in developing country like India. Now, how agriculture evolved? The world started around 4,600 million years ago. The first eukaryotic life forms was formed 1,000 million years ago. Eukaryotic life forms means the organism having a cell which contains nucleus and other organelles covered by the membranes. So, this first the eukaryotic forms of life was started in 1,000 million years ago. The first hominid life forms was started 4,000 million years ago. It means the first hominid life forms means the organism having the hands, the mouth, the legs like gorilla, the chimpanzees, all this started before 4 million years ago. They used to lie basically on hunting and gathering of foods. The earliest man, Homo erectus, appeared before 1.5 million years ago. They were identified, they were distinguished from other animals keeping in view their intelligence and their skills in using the tools for hunting and gathering food. They probably learned to control and use fires before 500,000 years. The direct ancestor of the modern man, which is Homo sapien, was appeared before 250,000 years ago. And then modern man appeared in Africa around 35,000 years ago. They were distinguished from other species of genus Homo by their skills and their large size of brain, the small size of teeth and chin. The first farmers, human farmers means the systematic cultivation was started before 12,000 years ago. And then we can say the modern agriculture was started after 1950. So, we will discuss all these stages in details. Now, here we will see the timelines of development of agriculture. The conservation of crops such as barley and wheat was started during 7500 BC. Domestication of cattle and pigs was started in 6000 BC. The cultivation of maize was started in 4000 BC. The cultivation of potato was started in 3500 BC. Wheel was invented during 3400 BC. Bronze was used to make tools in 3000 BC. The first time plough was invented and irrigation was started in 2900 BC. Silk moth was domesticated during 2700 BC. Then cultivation of chickpea, pea, mustard and cotton, and also domestication of fowl, buffalo and elephant was started in 2300 BC. The cultivation of rice in India was started in 2200 BC. Cultivation of finger millet was started in 2100 BC. Cultivation of sorghum was started in 1725 BC. Taming of horses was started in 1700 BC. Cultivation of sugarcane and irrigation from wells was started in 1500 BC. Use of iron was started during 1400 BC. Then in the year 1500, cultivation of sweet orange, sour orange, wild brinjal and pomegranate was started. Several crops were introduced in India from the Portugal in the year 1600. The important crops introduced from the Portugal to India were sweet potato, arrowroot, cassava, tomato, chilies, pumpkin, papaya, pineapple, guava, custard apple, groundnut, cashew nut, tobacco, cotton, rubber. Now we will understand how agriculture was developed in the prehistorical period. The first stage for development of or evolution of agriculture was started with the identification and conservation of desirable native plants. As the slowly population increases, the hunting or gathering was not sufficient. The people, by using the different plant parts such as roots, seeds, leaves, flowers, fruits, they might have identified the desirable plant parts and desirable plants that time, and they might have started the conserving that plant parts from the dangers. The second stage was started with the collection and preservation of seeds, because the gathering of the food was not sufficient. So when they used to throw the seeds, after using the seeds, they used to throw the seeds, and they might have observed the thrown seed was germinated. With these things, they might have started collecting the seeds, and in the next stage, they started the sowing of seeds by spreading these seeds in the place. So with these things, the sowing of seeds was started. But with this observation, or after seeing that the birds, the airs flow water is damaging the seeds, they started the loosening of the soils with the help of stone, wooden tools, and they started putting the seeds into the soils. In such a manner, the tilling of land was started. Then with this cultivation practices, due to the increase in the population, they might have observed that this food is not sufficient, or the productivity of the land is declining. They might have observed that time, and that times the land was available in abundance. So that times they might have shifted to other places because of the low productivity, and they see that the productivity is increased. So with these things, the concept of shifting cultivation was started. Then they also might have seen that time that there are unwanted plants in the field. With these plants, the productivity is low because they are competing for their inputs, resources. With this experience, might have started the controlling the unwanted plants, and this activity was mostly performed by that time the women. The women mostly they performed this activity. And then the fallowing of land was also started. With the rise in population, people started living in the groups and they stabilized the villages. Because they were started living in the community, they might have observed the reduction in yield due to continuous raising of the crops on the same soil. So with this experience, they started the fallowing of the new land and tilling the old fallow lands. Then the next stage for the development of agriculture during the prehistorical period was the use of domestic waste and as plant nourishment. When they used to throw the waste, growth of the plants was very good. They might have observed that time. And at the same time, they also started domesticating animals like sheep, goat, cow and buffalo. And use of this dung, urine and animal waste has improved the productivity of the soil. They have improved the soil fertility. With the use of the ashes, domestic waste, animal dungs and urine, they started improving the productivity. Then they started with the following of crop rotation, because they have established the villages that time, and leaving the villages was not possible for them. So, they might have observed that growing of cereals after legume crops give better yield, which resulted in crop rotation practices. And that they must have later they must have realized that legume crop fixed atmospheric nitrogen, and then they started grain manuring with this experience that legume must have been grown and that turned into the soil to improve the soil fertility. Then now we will move how agriculture in India developed, or what's the contribution of India in agriculture development. The most important contribution of India is the cultivation of rice, because rice is the staple food crop in South, Southeast and Southeast Asia. Then sugarcane, several legume crops such as pigeon pea and tropical fruits like mango were native of India. Now you see the Mohenjo-daro to Harappan territory was the center of the agriculture revolution in Indus Valley during the period of 3000 to 1700 BC. Excavation in this area have revealed huge number of granaries, and the barley, wheat, sesamum, peas, cotton, mustard, date palm and lentil were the main crops during the Mohenjo-daro to Harappan territory. Use of wooden plough and wheel cart was used first time in the Harappan territory. People of the Harappan territory, they used the ginning, spinning and weaving of cotton into cloth. Farmers of that period used to sling bowl for scaring the birds, cattle, buffalo, goat, sheep, pig, camel, ass, dog and cat. Now we will move to the Vedic age. Agriculture was the most important profession during 1500 to 1000 BC. Use of iron implements such as iron plough was started in this period. Barley, wheat, beans, sesamum, millets, rice were the major crops during time. They were referred several times, several places in Vedas. Importance of trees is mentioned during the Buddhist period. Then the importance of sowing seasons, climate, cloud, soil fertility, irrigation and weed control has been emphasized several times during the Mahabharata and Ramayana in the period 1000 to 500 BC. Cultivation of rice using the irrigation from the Kaveri river was the most important event in Indian agriculture. A book, Amar Khosla, was written during the period of Chandragupta II, and this book mentions about the classification of soils, land use, irrigation, implements and manures. During the period of Kannauj Empire of Harsha, fine scented rice variety was grown in Magadh. Pomegranates and sweet orange were also grown during this period. A book, Krishi Parasara, was written during 950 to 1100, and land manuring, crop rotation, irrigation, tillage, implements, crop protection and methodology were discussed in this book. Several water reservoirs and irrigation channels were constructed during the period 1336 to 1646. The most important example for this, the Anant Raja Sagar in Vijayanagar district of Andhra Pradesh. Babur laid the foundation of Mughal dynasty in India. In this period, several gardens and flower cultivation and provision of irrigations was created. At that time, the large sum was collected from the peasants as peasantry tax. Europeans, primarily British, arrived in early 17th century, and by the 18th century they have made profound impact on India. India was the center of trade during that period. Their model of mass production technology, dynamic craft and cottage industry was suffered lot, but during that period also the modern institutions were established like universities, technologies, rail lines, road, mass communications. The purpose was to help the British interest. Land ownership was given to the small group of people to collect the rent from the individual farmers. and pay to the government. Actually, the British government used to collect the rent from the farmers. Two models of collecting the rent from the farmers was developed. One was the Zamindari, another was the Rohitwari. In Zamindari system, they have created a small group of people who have the ownership of the land. They used to collect the rent from the individual farmers. In the Rohitwari system, ruler used to collect rent directly from the farmers. With this effect, the farmers doesn't have much interest in agriculture for their land developments. In British period, some of the irrigation schemes were also initiated in the river deltas for raising additional revenue for the British government. Then a number of good initiatives were also initiated at that time. Importance are like Department of Agriculture was created at the national level. At the same time, a number of state level Department of Agriculture was also created. Agriculture education facility was started at Coimbatore and also at Pune. Then after a great famine 1876-77, famine commission was constituted in 1880. Dr. J. A. Walekar, consultant chairman of the Royal Agriculture Society, submitted a report on improvement of Indian agriculture in 1891. Then Imperial Agriculture Research Institution was created in 1905 at Pusa, Bihar, which is now Indian Agriculture Research Institute, which is located at Delhi. Then a number of agricultural colleges were set up, such as Coimbatore Agriculture College, Pune, Nagpur and Kanpur. Royal Commission was constituted in 1926 and this commission has submitted reports in 1928. Department of Food was created in 1942 to meet the food requirement. Grow More Food Campaign, Food Policy Committee, Famine Inquiry Committee, fertilizer production programs were initiated in around 1945. A number of research support was given to the agriculture by creating research institutions. Then now we will move to development of agriculture after independence. On the basis of recommendation of the Education Commission 1948, Joint Indo-American Teams of 1955, 1959 and 1961 and Education Commission 1964 to 66, various state agricultural universities were established to integrate the agriculture education, research and extension activities. At present, we have 62 state agricultural universities, 5 deemed university, 2 central agricultural universities and 4 central universities having agriculture faculty. The major area of education was started such as agriculture, veterinary sciences, agriculture engineering, forestry, dairy technology, food technology, horticulture, fisheries, home science, agriculture economics and business management. ICR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, is responsible for the growth and development of agriculture education and research in India. ICR coordinates research through its network of 62 national and central research institutions, 14 national research centers, 6 national bureaus, 14 directorate and project directorates, 60 all India coordinated research projects, 19 network projects and 10 other projects. Now, how we have developed to the modern agriculture. Modern agriculture started with the advancement of the science and technology and use of science of technology in agriculture. Now, farmers adopt new techniques of agriculture production and they are harnessing higher agriculture productivity. Now, we have sufficient agriculture production to meet the human and livestock need and also we are providing sufficient raw material for the industries. We are maintaining pace in agriculture production with the growing population of human and cattle. So, modern agriculture started with the development of various initiatives. The important things we have done for agriculture in India was the development of ideal plant varieties. We have improved our crop production technology. A number of irrigation projects were started and improved the irrigation infrastructure. We have started using machinery in agriculture. Intensive cropping system was started in India and we have developed the technology for the dry land farming also. We have converted the problematic and waste land into the agricultural land. Then we are also working to maintain the soil health. Now, from these slides we can see that the evolution of agriculture was slow and in gradual process. The community started living in the prehistoric times, increased the man's dependence on food. By living there in community, the increasing population, the dependency on the food was increased. Then the hunting and gathering status was not sufficient to fulfill their requirement. And that time the survival and self preservation was a major challenge. And from this experience the people started cultivating the crops. They started growing a variety of crops and also they have improved their productions. With this I thank you all for hearing. Thank you very much.